DBMS, okay, database management system. Okay, so the types of SQL commands, okay, we're gonna learn is we're gonna touch more on this one called DML. Okay, but before going to that, I'll talk about this data definition language. So mainly before any data is ingested, meaning like you want to populate the records into the database, you have to define the structure, meaning you have to set the right columns, you have to set the right structure, you have to set the right data type. And you want to put some rules when you're ingesting the data as well. So this is normally known as the data definition language. So a common thing you will see is like create table, alter table, maybe drop table as well. So these are in the realm of data definition language. The next one is data manipulation language. This is the one that you'll be having your hands on. I think we will have some fun to do it. Okay, I really sincerely hope that it does not crash when all you are using at the same time. So data manipulation language is mostly like selecting your information from a database and querying a database. On the part of maintaining is normally updating the database, but we will not be doing this in this workshop. Lastly is the data control language, okay, known as DCL. These are normally handled by the database administrator. It's not a very important concept to learn. Normally, these people will be the one granting access. So, for example, if you are a external party, you want to see the internal data, right? But because you're an external party, we allow you to see the partial part of the data, right? So this is what the data control is doing. We give you a certain amount of access to the data. You may see the data, but maybe you cannot see the full scope of it, or we totally don't allow you to see the data, right? Because it's sensitive. Especially like, for example, the bank data, we don't allow everyone to see those data, right? But don't have to be so concerned about this. This is not the main topic for this workshop. Okay, this is the one that we're going to focus more. Okay, the breakdown of a SQL query, right? So I think I'll just assume that most of you guys may have encountered this for the first time. So this is a typical query where you want to query from a database. So you have this thing called select, which you picks the column. So assuming if a table, okay, so a table consists of row and columns. If a table have 3 columns, probably you can use the select to pick only 1 or 2 columns. You may not need the whole data. If you need the whole data, it will be called select star. So maybe we'll see it in the later workshop, the hands-on part of it, where you select the entire data from the table. The from, okay, points to the table. Okay, so there are many tables in the database: customer table, transaction table, product table. So which information you want. So the from points to the table. So this is something that is important. Okay, without these two, technically you can't draw any information out. The where condition filters the row based on the condition. So meaning, let's say if you want to know a condition like, for example, maybe a salary more than $5,000, for example. So you put a where condition, you want to find all employees with a salary more than $5,000. So this is a where condition. For the group, it's kind of like putting everything together. You're trying to roll up the information. So let's say if you want to group by countries, you might have a typical question like, select the countries that has the highest population. You have so many data, right? So you group all the people, by the country, and then they'll do the count for you or the summation for you. So this is what grouping does when you are doing a SQL query. Next is having. Having is a additional filter. So after you group them together, having is like an additional filter. So you have grouped all the countries and everything. You want to find now which country has more than 5 million population. So this having over here is another condition to do an extra filter after your grouping. Lastly is order. No, I wouldn't say lastly, but there's an order by. So you want to order by descending order, or you want to order by ascending order. So you want to see from top down, from the most to the least, or from the least to the most, depending on what kind of information you want to look at. Limit. So when you query data from a database, it's millions of rows. Limit, you want to see a sample, probably to take a look how your data look like. So there's a limit. For other database, they might use like select top 100 rows. So different RDMS use different kind of language, but basically it's just a sample data. You want to see a sample. So for example, you want to limit 100 rows, you will limit, there's 100 records coming out from the database. Right? Otherwise, when you query like 2 million rows, which is possible, but you can expect your computer to either lag or probably may crash. There are times that my PC crashed because I didn't limit the number of records coming from the database server. Okay, so with that, we're going to do some practice. Before that, I'm going to give you all this website. Okay, because why I suggested this website, and this is the first time I'm going to do it using this online website. I'm going to give it to every one of you. Okay, so usually the problem with SQL workshops, right, is normally we use those open source like MySQL, MySQL, or Postgres SQL. But the problem when we give it to the students or to the audience is the installation part. Each computer face a different problem, maybe install this. So I hope that this website, can give you a flavor of how to, do a select statement and how to go about using an SQL query. Okay, so I hope everyone is in this particular website. Let me see. Oops. Just a confirmation. You guys still can see my screen, right? Yeah. Okay. So this is not a very complex database management system. It looks very, very simple. Okay. So this is normally like an editor where you will query you do your coding down here. You do your select statements, right? So select star over here, it means select everything from this database. Look to your right side, right? The right side of it. I hope you guys can see this database demo. So there are a couple of tables here. There are employee tables, there are department tables, customer tables, ordered. So, sorry, in a typical database, you'll normally see like many, many tables. This is very simplified as a demo. Normally, it could go up to thousands of tables, right? And there are different database. There's like a database for sensitive data. There's a database for non-sensitive data. So it really depends on how your department is trying to, give the access to the various employees. Okay. All right. So if you were to click on each table, you'll notice that there are some data populating out already. These are example data that is provided by this website, right? So you can see there are already quite a bit of data. Okay, small numbers, so it's easy to query. It's small numbers, right? But take a notice. Whenever I click on this, right, look at over here. This editor down here, right? It changed as well, right? It's executing this thing select star from the table, right? So if I click categories, it selects star from categories, select star from products. So mainly it's selecting everything from this table, right? So normally in coding, I usually recommend that you guys write it out by yourself, right? So let's say if I want to find everything from employee table, best is you do a select star from employees. Okay, so if you notice, sometimes I write capital or small letter, right? SQL is not really case sensitive. Sometimes it does, but most of the time it's not case sensitive. So if you to write, let's say if you write this is as uppercase and this is lowercase, it will still function the same. And this semicolon is to kind of like to stop the query, right? So let's say if you have like a lot of codes, right? And you want to run all at one go, like a programming language, that kind. So they'll know that, okay, if I select this, stop. Maybe they'll run another code and then they'll stop. Okay, so this is usually, it's a good practice to have this at the end. So you're telling the system, okay, my query ends here, right? So if you to execute this query, right, you see that the whole information has changed, meaning you have select all from this table. So I want you guys, maybe take 2 minutes to try something. So I'm going to teach you how to use a where condition. Okay, I hope you guys are at this page. Okay, I'll try to make it bigger for you guys to see. Okay, so if you want to filter, right? So we have learned about the where condition. So if you do the where, okay, I want to pick up employee ID, or maybe some person, right? So you select the column that you want to filter, right? So for example, EP ID, all right? And you want to define who you want. So I want to find this person called Tony. His employee ID is 2. So you put to equal to 2. Okay, try executing it. You should see only one employee. So I want you guys to give a try, play around with it and see what other results you see. Okay, this is when you want to just select one employee, right? Select star, select all information with regards to that one employee. I'm reading a little bit of the Q&A also. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll answer a bit of this Q&A in a little bit. Okay, so I want you guys to try also, this select star is to select everything, right? But if why do I want every single information? Sometimes one information is enough for me. So if I were to do select employee ID, means I only pick one column only, just one column. And you see employee ID. But this is not useful information for me. Why would I want to, find the employee ID when I already give you my employee ID that I want to filter? So maybe I want the employee name, right? And this I'll get this person's name. What if you have a few people you want to select, right? So I introduce this another where condition. Okay, let's do with a select star. Okay, where employee ID. So if you want to do a list, that means you want to have a couple of records. Okay, you can do a list by doing this in, right, 3 or 5. I'm just assuming that I want employee 3 or and 5. When I execute it, it will show me only 2 records. Okay, so this is so if you want to build a list, probably you want to build some more. You execute it, you get 2, 3, 5. Right. So if you want to see more employee, you can do this 2, 3, and 5. This if you want to see like a list. Now, how about the reverse? I don't want to see these employees. What you can do is you put a not. Okay, so it's a reverse logic already. So you take away whatever employee ID that is not 2, 3, as well as 5. Okay? I'll take a pause here to let you all sink in a little bit. Let me see what questions I can. What platform I will recommend to use for SQL? So technically, I would say there's no proper platform. I've been using a lot of platforms myself. So, uh, like, how should I say? I use Teradata, I use SAS, I use MySQL. So it really depends on your personal preference. Even you can use Python to do SQL as well. So it really depends on your personal preference. And the ones that is out of my control is normally which software the company buy. I cannot control that. So you have to get used to the platform. But personally, I do like to try every single kind of platforms, so you get to know what are the features, which ones are fun. Sometimes importing data to a certain database is quite a hassle for certain database management system. But it's good if you could like just try around. Okay, now let's go to the next one. Okay. Actually, I have some questions over here lah. I mean, not questions, just some practice. So if you guys can get this answer, definitely great. Okay, but it's already done in the demo as well. Okay, let me see. Not in. Okay, a few things that I can show you as well. Okay, so not in, right? Okay, it's just one way of uh okay, this one is only applicable for list lah. I want to do I want to do just one employee by itself. So remember, like we wanted to find equals to 2, right? So you just want to find 1, right? But now I just don't want the employee by itself. You can have this operator. This is known as not equal to 2. Okay, with an exclamation mark at the front is trying to tell the server, say, I don't want to find employee that is equal to 2. Likewise, if you have other condition, maybe like department ID or salary, right? You can fill in that kind of condition. Not equals. This is not equal. So if you to execute it, you see the 2 is missing from here. Sometimes, right? It's not only this kind of an operator. There's also operators like this as well. So really, it depends from database management system to database management system. This is also known as not equal to, right? And sometimes you can put like it's not to as well, right? It functions the same. It functions the same. Now, okay, I assume that you guys are pretty okay. Okay, if anything, I can't really answer everything, so I'll try my best. We're going to go on to the next topic, which is the and or condition. Right. So think about it when you want to filter something, right? It, this is basically conditions, either one condition or it must satisfy both conditions. So the and condition is meaning that both condition must satisfy. Well, or it's like, okay, maybe apple or orange. Okay. Either one comes, I'll accept it. Right. But for the and, you need both conditions to be present in order for it to work. Right. So the question here is to find out all the employees whose salary is greater than 5,000 and department ID is either equal to 1 or 5. Whenever you construct a SQL query, it has to do a little bit of your logical thinking as well. What do you want to find? So just by this sentence alone, there's an and condition involved as well as an or condition involved. Right? So you want to find out all employees whose salary is greater than 5,000. This is one condition. And it must satisfy, either the employee belongs to department 1 or department 5. So what can you expect already? You can expect to see employees that belong to either to these 2 departments and they must have a salary more than 5,000. So you can kind of like imagine how your final table will look like already. Okay, let's have some hands-on. Let me see. Okay. So now I want to select, okay, if your another thing to share with you guys, all right, if you want to take away a certain line, right, but you want to keep it as a reference, there's a thing known as comment. In this internet, I mean this web page, it does not support this. Okay, actually in most DBMS, right, this will be known as comment. But you can likewise do this. Okay, this backslash and star. Okay, you can do it for multi-line. Multi-line meaning it can go on to a few lines as well. But basically what this does is they'll ignore the line completely. What is it good for? Comment is very good for debugging. That's one. Secondly, it's also very good for documentation. Okay, so likewise, when I am asking you a question, right? Let's say a question, but I don't want to execute this at all. Where is my stuff? Yeah. Right. So this is like a documentation of what this query language is going to do. It's a very good practice. It's a very good practice to have documentation in all your codes. Okay, so I want you guys to select star from. So we're still using the table employees. We're still using employees. So make sure you select star from the table employees. Okay. We're going to do a where condition again. Where? Okay, this time we're looking for salary that is greater than 5,000. Right. So if you want to break down your code, you can do it like step by step. Okay, you can try to find out one condition that fulfill, and then you try to practice other conditions. Sometimes we don't have the code right at our the first thing in our mind, especially if you're new to SQL. It takes some time to register what kind of conditions to use and how to go about using it as well. Okay, you can try this where salary is more than 5,000. Okay, take notice of what is happening. If you see like those 4,000, you should see the records disappear. You filter only employees with more than 5,000. Okay, so this is just one condition. Okay, but I need it to be having another condition, which is the department ID. You notice the department ID, there's 1, 5, 3, now 1 and 5. So this time, I want to get rid of these 3 and as well as now. I only want to have employees from department 1 and 5. So what you can do is do an N. Okay. One thing you have to take note. All right. The all condition is a separate condition by itself. Right. So you have to encapsulate it. Meaning you have to have these two brackets here. Right? So if you remember like mathematical operation, right? Which one you want them to be separate by itself, to do their own conditions by itself. So likewise, the conditions for SQL query, it works the same here as well. Right? So you want to do department ID. Okay, equals to 1 or department ID equals to 5. Okay, you guys can try executing this. You should see they have taken away. I think it's department 3 and now, yeah, I think they've taken it away. So this is your results if you're doing a and or condition. Why is it important to put this? Because for SQL queries, they actually read from top to down, right? If you were to take this away, they will assume that this is one condition by itself, right? So it does not make sense anymore. So if you execute, if you notice, they'll take this as one condition by itself, or department equal to 5. You'll see a department ID 5 and a salary less than 5,000. So this condition does not fulfill your requirement anymore because this is not what you want. Your question is you want greater than 5,000 and the department ID is equal to 1 or 5, right? So this whole query technically is uh, I would say is a wrong query. You're not getting the results you want. Okay, going on to next one, right? I'll try to cover as much as I can for this workshop because SQL is actually it takes a few hours if you want to know end to end. Strongly suggest that you go and pick it up by yourself or go through a course to learn about all these SQL languages. Next one is between and end, right? So it's to find out all the employees whose salary falls within the range. So this is another function using this called between. So technically, it's finding a range. Sorry, from a range, maybe between 1 to 100. So between takes the condition inclusive. So meaning between 1 to 100, you also take 1 as well as 100 and all the numbers in between. Okay. So for those of you guys who are fast enough, you guys can write in the query, SQL query already. How do you make your own SQL database? Actually, it's very easy lah, to make your own SQL database. All right. So this one will form under the DDL lah, the where you create database. You just go to the any database management software. You just type create database. You name your database, and then you type use your database. Then you create table. Then you ingest your information. Yeah. So actually, it's not very difficult if you want to create your own database. It's more difficult if you're in the corporate kind of setting where you need permissions here and there. But if you are trying to create on your own, I think it's a lot easier. Is it okay if I don't put the semicolon? Actually, it's okay for most cases. Normally, there's not much error, I would say. Okay. Maybe some database management software is a bit picky, but from my experience, right, I sometimes I'm a little bit lazy at times, and I never put. You still execute fine. The more importantly, why we need that semicolon, right, is because if you're doing a, a kind of a routine SQL, okay, this is advanced topics already. If you're doing a routine SQL where there's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5 in a single script, then you need this kind of semicolon to stop the query. Yeah, we have a lot of questions, but let's get on. Okay. Yeah, I have not done the SQL query, so sorry about it. Okay, let's do the SQL query. Okay, so it's very simple. Select all. Still want to go with employees. Let me see whether I got chance to do other tables. But let's do with employees tables first. Select all from employees. Okay. You still need the where condition. Right? Salary between 7,000 and 9,000. Very simple. Right? It's the end condition. The between is just putting between 7,000 and 9,000. Right? What's the other alternative? Actually, the other alternative, if it comes to your mind, right, you should have seen this before, right? Oops. You may have seen this before. However, when you do this, the end condition, you have to do this, right? It executes the same as well. It's just a different way of doing it. So in every programming language, I would say there's no right or wrong. It's more of like which one you're comfortable, which one it comes to your mind intuitively. More importantly is whether you understand what you're querying all about, right? So for this example is just n and between, right? This is just to illustrate between, okay, between 7,000 and 9,000. Okay, now we're going to go on to a little bit more difficult stuff. Okay, there's a bit of a join condition involved. So the question here, okay, is a join and a group by. So we're going to do some aggregation over here, right? So we're going to find the total number of employees in every department, right? So now there are two tables involved, employees as well as department table. So now you're going to join them together and then form your results. So this is one step higher already. Okay, this is where the concept of a relational database comes together. Okay, that's the whole purpose of it, and that's why every data analyst is using this concept to gather information about their data. Okay, let me put the question for you so that it's easier to see. Okay, since we can comment things out. To be frank and honest, I don't know what's their core language in this website. I probably need to send an email to ask them, like, what's the main SQL you're using. SQL got different types also, right? Even every company have their own type of SQL also. There's a Spark SQL, there's Presto SQL, there's other SQL, and they're used by all the different big companies also, right? Different big companies can invent their own languages also. Okay, so this is the question. Find out the total number of employees in every department. If you guys are fast, you can do the join condition. But we're gonna explain the join condition for this example. I may not have time to cover everything, but let's do this one. Okay, let me see. So the first step, you want to have the total number of employees in every department. So you have to kind of think like, um, which one you want to group them together. So you're going to find the number of employees in the department. So you're rolling up to the department level. So the department is the one that you have to group all the employees together. Okay, so what we can do is select. Okay. This is something that I'm going to introduce to you. Maybe you guys can just type it out first. T1, department name, count, T2, employee ID. Okay, this is something I want to introduce you as well. Okay, from departments as T1. Okay, left join employees as T2 on T1 department ID equals to T2 department ID. Group by T1 department ID. All right. Okay, so that maybe take a while to copy down this code. Can we do department ID equal? For list you can't do the equal sign. You have to do the in. Yeah. Unfortunately, this is how SQL is being functioned. Those who wrote the SQL language, right? We can't really change it unless you want to rewrite the whole code by yourself. Yeah. So this is some I would say some standards by the global community. Yeah. Okay. I hope you guys have written it down already. Okay, so I'm going to explain what does it mean, right? So first of all, okay, I have not introduced this. This is called as alias, all right? Alias as total employees, all right? So this S condition here, right, is actually to uh, transform the column name. We call it alias. Alias, ALIAS, right? We call this, right? Even you want to change name at the first column, you also can change it as well if you want to, right? So you create a whole different column name when you're querying it. So your final table looks neater. If you don't do this, maybe I can show you later. It's actually a very ugly naming. There's like a default naming to your column if you don't use this alias, right? So it's mainly for presentation. And if you want to export your final table out, best to have it in a proper naming convention. Okay, so first of all, you're going to select from departments because department is the table that you want to do the grouping. You want to group by the different, you want to roll up to the department level. So your first table will be departments. As T1, actually technically if you want to put as T1, you want to put as, sometimes you might not need this also, sometimes, right? So basically you have to give a alias to your table. Reason being is because of the join condition later on. Okay, so left join. Okay, we will not be touching on the relational this joins condition, but in short, left join meaning the left table, okay, the rows will be preserved. The number of rows will be preserved, right? So assuming if they cannot find matching keys or matching records from the right table, the total number of records will still remain as, so for example, this department, for example, if they have 100 records, you do a left join, the second table have only 20 records, right? They'll fill in the remaining records as missing values, but in total, the record count will still be 100 records. Okay, so that's the idea of this left join and right join, right? The left join, the left table will be the main table, meaning the department. For this case, will be the department, right? So you left join employees as T2, right? So here, this condition here is actually uh, based on what keys you want to join. So both table, okay, let me comment all this out first. Okay, we have to look at the table. Sometimes for the first step for everything, right, we have to look at the tables. So if we to look at select star from employees, okay, so execute it. You notice there's a department ID. This department ID is your join key to the department table. If you look at select star from department, how should I say, department, did I spell it correctly? Departments. Right? There's department ID over here. Okay? So you're using this as a join key. Okay, let's write the whole code out. If you should execute it, you should be able to see the total number of employees per department. Now, if you find that you want to see which employee has, which department has the most employee, you can do an order by. Okay, you can do an order by. I hope this works. T by total employees. Okay, first of all, you'll just do a kind of a lowest to highest. So you can specify that you want the highest at the top by doing a DESC. This means descending. When you execute it, you'll see your first number at the top. Okay? So this is a group by, and this is order by, right? So remember there's a thing called having. Having, right? Having is after group by, right? So this is after you have done the count. So I forgot to explain. This is actually counting the number of employees, right? And then they group by the department level, right? So they'll count all the employees and then they'll group it by department level. Okay. Now we're going to do having. Okay, having maybe I would say sum of total employees. I hope this works. More than two. Oops. Yep. So you see sales department has a total employees of 3. So this is a further filter. Once you have grouped by everything already, you want to know what are the relevant information that you need. And just by doing this having, you filter out everything that you don't need. Anything that's less than 3, they'll filter it out from the entire your final table, right? So this is a joint condition. This is a little bit more to the advanced part of it. There's so many things you can do with it. Uh, if you're a lazy person, right? Actually, this is a good practice that you put in your column name. Sometimes people will do like group by 1, okay? Meaning actually grouping by, it's the same thing. If you specify department name as your first column, if you put group by 1, it will just go straight to grouping by this. If you group by 2, you'll group by the second column. Yeah, so technically this is how it works. I think it works the same. Yeah, it works the same. So if you want to fill in by your, you want to specify the column name, you can do it. If you want to do by group by 1, 2, 3, you also can do it as well, right? So the order you put on top, likewise you can just put 1 and then you can execute it as well. Okay, I think we are going close to 8 here. I see what questions I can answer. What's the difference between left join, right join, and join? So there are actually 4 types of join. Okay, so left join meaning the left table is the main table. Right join, right is just the other way around. Inner join means both table. Okay, they must have matching keys. Normally your record is smaller. Your record is smaller because of the both side must match. Okay, so I say again, left join is left table is the main table. So if it's 100 records, you should maintain 100 records in your final table. Outer join, you will tend to see your data set tend to balloon. Okay, so regardless whether they can find keys or not, they will put both tables together, right? So there's a bit of overlap. So maybe you got 100 and got 60. When they do an outer join, you may get 120 because they managed to match maybe like 30 records, but 20 records out of the place. So overall record may balloon by using the outer join. What's the difference between on and group by? So on is to match the key. Okay, group by is you want to roll up your transaction. So let's say if you want to count, right? Count the number of employees. Count the number of employees grouped by the department level, right? So they'll just, it's like fitting into the box in a way. They count the number of employees all belong to this department. They put into this department ID equals to 1. 3 employees go there. 2 employees go to the department ID. So you can have this kind of like a summary table, I would say. Normally when I have a big table, right, and I want to see by summary level, usually I'll do that. I will like count how many records customer, belong to the high income wealth. Right? Please, I'll do the count and group by the income range. Yeah. So these are a few examples. Okay. Okay. I think it's 7:55. I think I can give the floor back to Janissa. Do you want me to continue, or is it time for you to take over the floor?
Hi, yes. Okay, thank you everybody for attending this workshop. We would like you to help us to scan the QR code to fill in the feedback form actually. Yes.
Let me open up the thing again.
So in the meantime, while it's loading, yeah, okay. Here is the QR code. So please take some time to scan it and leave your feedback. Yep, and if you're interested to find out more or attend our classes, you can follow us on our social media, which is Vertical Institute, or you can visit our website at Vertical Institute as well to find out more about our boot camps. So thank you so much for attending and do leave your feedback.
Sorry, I can't answer all your questions. I'll be happy to take, uh, you know, yeah, most of your questions. Or you can sign up for the course. They'll answer all your questions.